guys, today I'm going to be tackling one of my most frequently asked questions that I get all the time, and that is how do I pick my read-alouds that I utilize in my homeschool, and how do I pick which books I'm going to assign for my kids to read? We're going to tackle all of the process behind how I pick it and how we utilize this in our homeschool, so let's get started. The process, honestly, over the years has changed and adapted to fit our current season, but it has stayed intentional, it has stayed flexible, and the goal is always that it would support the other curriculum we're doing while leaving me less stressed. So the first thing we've got to look at is, what do I consider when it comes to picking these books? And the truth is, honestly, I really take the same approach when it comes to read-alouds and readers. I look at three main categories. What are we studying in history, personal recommendations, and character or theology points that I want my kids to grow in for that particular year. But let's break down each of those three. When it comes to picking books, we consider what we are studying in history. And I like to use curriculums that already give me good book lists. So we've used BiblioPlan in the past, Story of the World, and Sunlight. Those all come with great book lists that you can choose from. However, if you are not utilizing those, you can just look up the time period that you are studying in curriculums like Sunlight, for instance, that have their book lists on their website oftentimes, and you can pick from those lists. We like to pick a bunch of those books, some for read-alouds, some for readers that will help correlate with the time period we're going to be studying the next year. But one of the ways I keep it simple and flexible is that I don't try to line up those readings to exactly when we're going to hit that topic. So like, let's say the Civil War, I know we're going to cover it at some point in the year, but I'm not going to make sure that they're reading this Civil War book at the exact same time that we are studying about the Civil War. That was too stressful for me, and honestly, it didn't always fit the time of year or the season or my kids' interests at that time. So instead, I just pick a selection of books around the time period in history that we're going to learn about, and then I will have us read those throughout the year. If it's something where we haven't read about it in history yet, it acts as a hook for them to hang that information on later when we get to it in history, or if we've already read about it in our history book, when we come around to reading that read aloud or that reader, then it acts as a reminder and a review for what they've already learned. The second way I pick those books is by personal recommendation. So every year here on YouTube, I host a collab of people sharing their favorite and least favorite read-alouds from the past year. I always watch through all those videos and get a lot of great ideas of ones that I want to add to a read-aloud list or to my personal reader list. If you guys want to check out that collab or all of the collabs that I've done over the years, definitely check out the description down and link below, and you guys can check those out. I also love to hear from friends at church or co-op what are some of the books that their kids read and absolutely loved that I need to add to my list for the upcoming year. These can be very random and all over the place. They might be from a different history time period. They might be fiction. They might be something completely different, but I love to go based off of people's personal recommendations. And not only do I use personal recommendations from people I talk to or I hear from, I also love to use personal recommendations from some trusted resources. Books like Honey for a Child's Heart, which is a book full of a giant book list of different age groups and different books that you might like to read for those age groups, or checking out the website Read-Aloud Revival. She has a bunch of curated book lists, not only for chapter books, but for picture books and more. I love to find recommendations off of there because honestly, most of the ones we've tried from there have been big hits in this home. The third category is looking at those character traits I want to develop in my kids or those theological topics that I want to tackle with my children this year. I really do this at the beginning of the year when I'm setting my goal planning for the year, and I look at areas that we might need to work on or develop or we need to grow in, and I will pick books based on those things. A lot of times we will pick some missionary stories. We specifically love the Heroes of the Faith series that you guys should definitely check out. We love to check out biographies, again, on different people who have made an impact for their faith or who show good quick character qualities that we're wanting to talk about those things. We'll do theological themes. I will link down below to a video of several of my favorite Bible books that you can use with your kids to help develop and introduce them to a lot of different topics, or just those general character building books. We don't overdo it because there's always so many books that you can pick from, but having a few from each of these three categories helps give me some diversity in their learning and throughout the year. And And of course, you can always add to it later or take away and decide to wait till later for your kiddos. That is totally fine, but this gives you an idea of where to get the book recommendations in the first place. So the second question I get with this is, now that I pick the books, how do I decide what is read-alouds versus what is going to be assigned reading for my child? I kind of have three ways that I decide if it is a good book for a read-aloud. One, is it a book that is just genuinely better enjoyed together? Sometimes there are books that I really love, but that aren't as good read aloud because maybe there's a lot of dialogue back and forth, and when you're not physically looking at the book, it's actually a little confusing. These are going to be books that you want to talk about, that you want to discuss. The second category is stories that have deeper meanings or maybe dealing with heavier topics. I like to do these as read-alouds specifically. Not all of them are like this, but I like to do these as read-alouds so that we can have those conversations, so that I can edit if necessary, and also so that if my kids have questions, I can answer those questions for them. And finally, it is if it is a nostalgic favorite. So for instance, Mr. Popper's Penguins is by far one of my favorite read-alouds that we read as when I was a kid, and I wanted to be the one to introduce that to my children. Same with Charlotte's Web and many others. So these are ones that I choose to pick that probably would be fine if they read it on their own, but I wanted to be a part of that experience. Little bonus tip, sometimes I will read the first book in a series that I think that one or many of my kids will enjoy, and I'll read just the first book to hook their interest, and then when they say, "Mommy, can we read the next one? Can we read more?" I'll say, "Well, we're going to go on to our next read aloud, but if you want to read them, here is the rest of the books that you can tackle on your own." This has been a great way to pique their interest on books that I know that they will love, but maybe wouldn't normally pick up on their own. As far as independent readers go, I will, after I pull out my read-alouds that I want to do for our home, I will look at the rest of the list and kind of divide it by reading level. I will then actually divide this physically in my bookshelf. We have done cubby bookshelves before. We've also done baskets that are labeled by the child or by the reading level if I have a couple of children in that reading level. And so I will take that selection of books from those three different categories and I will put it in that basket or in that cubby with their name on it. Then throughout the year, they're required to do a certain amount of reading. So younger ones, 20 minutes reading a day. Older ones, maybe 45 minutes. When you get to high school, you have to do at least 1 hour of reading a day. And so they can go through their basket and they can pick and choose whichever books that they're interested in reading in that time. But I know no matter what they pick, it's books that I have chosen, and there is a great selection there for them. Does that mean that I sometimes prep and prepare books that they never get to? Yes, that happens all the time, but that's okay because I want to give them that variety and that choice. And a lot of times, if one child chooses this one, a different child will choose a different one. So most of them get read at some point, and if not, then we just cycle them back through in future years. The third question that I get asked a lot is, what about seasonal readings? Do you keep up with that same box of or cubby of books for them to choose from during seasonal times like summer or during Christmas time? Or do you kind of deviate from that? So typically the rule of thumb is that I will try to shift and change our read-alouds, but not necessarily my assigned readers. There are some exceptions to this, obviously, but for our read-alouds, I do try to find lighthearted, funnier, shorter read-alouds that I can do during the summer. I actually just did a video in the Made to Homeschool community all about my favorite summer read-alouds and what makes a good summer read-aloud. So if you are a member of that community, you can go check that out. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And for Christmas, we usually try to pick a different Christmas read-aloud, like we did the Vanderbeekers on 141st Street. That was a fantastic one. We've done Under the Bridge. There's several different ones that you can do around Christmas time that are just really fun to add in. So sometimes we'll pivot there, but our readers are pretty much the same. When it comes to how many books that we choose for read-alouds and for readers, it varies wildly. And I know this is a question people want to know the answer to. There have been years where we've gone through many, and others where we've just made it through a couple. My goal is to choose at least an average of 1 book a month for us to go to for a read-aloud. Sometimes we'll go faster, sometimes we'll go slower, and then I'll have a little wish list on the side of backup books if we get through everything all together. But for the actual assigned readers, it does vary wildly, because if you're going through a picture book, you're going to be able to go through a lot more picture books than you are chapter books. And so I just kind of base it on the year, and I just sort of pick. Hopefully this helps you, give you an idea of how you can pick your readers and read-alouds for your upcoming homeschool year. And again, if you want to see that read aloud collab and what our favorite and least favorites were from this year, be sure to check out this video here.